Hello, viewers. Lovely to see you. Namaste, group hug. Come and join me on the sofa. As you know, this session is about staying sane and staying positive whilst we're all under lockdown, which it seems from Boris's chat this week, hopefully will be easing out and hopefully will be over soon. Today, I welcome Peter Yapp, who is a partner at Schillings. He was previously the UK's National Cyber Security Centre Deputy Director. I did look him up. He's got an illustrious career in government as well as in private consultancy with Accenture. But I'm still not convinced I understand what the National Cyber Security Centre does, Peter. So perhaps you'll welcome the viewers and perhaps tell us what that is.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here chatting on the sofa this morning. So the National Cyber Security Centre was set up in 2016. It was bringing together of all the agencies who dealt with cybersecurity within government. So before that time, there were lots of 3- and 4-letter acronyms, but no one really knew where to go to. And it was really down to personal contact, who you knew in which agency, which part of government, and you call them up and you might get slightly different advice. So the National Cybersecurity Centre brought all of that together under the umbrella
of coordinating effort.
Absolutely. So single message, and Mark Carney, Governor of the Bank of England at that time, had said, I don't know where to go in a crisis. Who do I call? I want one person to call, one agency to go to.
Peter Yapp!
Yes. And for a time that was true because I ran the incident response part of the National Cybersecurity Centre.
Impressive,
so any crisis that hit, basically, if it hit the newspapers, so if it was on the front page, then I was getting calls from two sides, both from the business community saying, what's going on, what should we do? But also from government saying,
oh, wow.
What are we doing? You know, do we know about this? How bad is it? Do we need to call a COBRA? You know, all of those kind of things. So
how do you call a COBRA?
Well, you say to
sounds good.
Someone in the cabinet office, this is really serious.
And then they put it as a COBRA alert.
Yes,
is it?
Absolutely.
So what does that mean?
It really means a level of engagement. So it means that you're going to get people sitting around a table to discuss this on a regular basis. And depending on the type of crisis, that could be weekly, it could be daily. It's geared for the biggest crises. And the biggest one that happened while I was at the National Cybersecurity Centre was WannaCry and the NHS.
Was what?
WannaCry. So this that was a piece of ransomware that kind of rampaged around the world. Was thought to have been constructed and come from North Korea, in fact. In later analysis.
What was it doing? What was it trying to scam?
So basically, it was trying to encrypt people's data and then demand money for that to be unlocked. As it happened.
I see. Oh, that's quite clever, isn't it? Because then you literally can't access anything you've got unless you pay this ransom. But how much money were they after?
Well, they didn't make anything out of it at all. It was a complete failure in terms of making money. In terms of disruption, it was appalling. I think it just got out of control, really. I think it didn't do what they intended it to do. But with North Korea being under sanctions and difficult to get hold of any kind of investment money, then they've turned to criminality to try and get that money. At least on that occasion, that's what they were trying to do.
Yes, we've all heard of the Nigerian scam, so I imagine that's probably on the same kind of thought process. So we're just going to let viewers know who you are, just a bit of light-hearted entertainment. I think in the COVID world, we've all had enough of death tolls and bleak news. So we just want to give people a nice look at who we're talking to. So we have a challenge which was on Instagram, which was called, which I'm sure you disapprove of, but we will continue nevertheless, which is posting an embarrassing picture of yourself, and you sent us a terribly sweet picture of you on a chair as a baby, which just looks like gorgeous, really, really, really lovely picture. And then we have you with an enormous beard, which would be very trendy these days, wouldn't it? Which is like a sort of, I think it's called a lumbersexual now.
Yes, yes. So the kind of the stages of life. So starting off as a blue-eyed blonde baby.
You look adorable. I think if anyone saw that picture, they'd be like, "Oh, I want that baby. He's so cute."
Yes. So that was then, and then yes, I had that.
How old were you in the picture with the beard? Because I see that there's like an orange thing behind you, like it's one of those picture booths.
Yes,
I can't think when that was.
Dates it, doesn't it? So
a little bit, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I suspect that was kind of late 20s, early 30s, something around there.
So what year do you think that was? I can't think.
I don't know what. Yeah, I can't think of the.
We'll let that go.
Think of the year. Unfortunately, beards were not as trendy as they are now. So I was kind of ahead of the trend, I think.
Oh, well done! Yeah, very good, very good. Yes. I like it. It's a great picture anyway. We love it. So moving on to staying sane. So I've started reading a book on, no, I've actually just finished it, a book on the brain, and they discussed this week the Ulysses contract, which is if there's something like you're overeating at home, so I'm looking at myself, or doing things you just really know, the brain says, don't do it, but somehow you still do it. It says you make a contract with yourself called the Ulysses contract, which is where he was a Greek person who was told he wanted to see all these gorgeous sirens singing on a mountain, beautiful wenches, but apparently he went to a death immediately saw them. So he tied himself to a post, put earplugs in all of his rowers, and he managed to see them without dying. So that you find a way to do something in life that doesn't, do the wrong thing. So for that, for me, is like, for instance, one lady said, I will send a check for £100 to the Ku Klux Klan, which is very controversial, but she didn't want to do that at all. So this was her Ulysses contract. I will not eat this chocolate bun, because if I do, I've made a contract with myself and I have to send £100 to the Ku Klux Klan, which is like, wow, this is very tough. So what are you doing to stay sane? I think that I saw you have a buttercup field and a puppy.
Yes. So puppy walking is definitely my route to sanity, and so
this is a new puppy, because in Marylebone we've got about 15 new puppies. So it's become like a theme, a trend on Google.
Yes. So
and actually it's also a scam now. Did you know that people are being scammed to pay puppy fees, and then there's not actually a puppy?
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, I mean, people have jumped on that fraud bandwagon in every which way, so I'm not surprised. But that seems a great shame. So the buttercup field shows that I live on the edge of the countryside, and that was my former dog, who unfortunately died in January. And I've been on lots of walks with him, and I didn't want to replace him straight away and just be a straight replacement, one dog for another. So I waited a little
moment of pause to reflect his life. Yeah,
absolutely. But I was so lucky that I picked up my new puppy a week before, the weekend before the lockdown. So
good. So I cannot put you in the people who are just getting puppies for lockdown. So well done. Big tick. Yeah.
Yes, it was definitely a decision made before, and we were just very lucky on the timing. And as soon as he'd had his injections, which he was allowed to have apparently as an essential thing, so the vets kept open for that. then he's been out for walks every day, and I'm not sure who's getting more enjoyment out of it, him or me.
I'm going to say he is, for sure, definitely. Puppies love to play, be outside, meet other dogs, don't they? So I'm sure he's having a wonderful time, and he's found a good master. So he's a lucky boy or girl. Is it a boy or a girl?
It's a boy, yes.
It's a boy. Well done. And what's his name?
Reggie.
Reggie, that was a great name. Reggie Perrin. The younger viewers will have no idea what that means, but I'll let them Google it. It's a TV show, isn't it, with this very strange individual running a boarding house. Anyway, yes. Work from home. So work from home is the new normal. It's the new black, isn't it? And I've been buying garden furniture. So I've got a new Heston Blumenthal barbecue coming this week to take advantage of more lockdown in hospitality, even if everyone gets back to normal. And I've been going a bit crazy doing spreadsheets and working really late into the night till 8 o'clock. So I think I've gone mad probably. So tell me about your office. I saw a beautiful view, and I think we've got a picture of that coming up, which is of a lovely skyline from where you're working.
Yes, so that's what I look out on. That's what I'm looking out on at the moment. And that has a kind of calming influence, and
I feel gorgeous.
Like I can take on anything with that. And I think, one of the things that many of us have realized is that we can actually carry on and do a lot from home, and perhaps more than we expected to be able to do. And we get that lovely view as well. So, from our office near Monument, I get a very different view. Skyline of London, which is also a great view, but I do like the greenery in the countryside, and looking out on that view from my office. It's from my home office.
It's very nice, isn't it? I mean, just it gives you a sort of feeling of peace and happiness, doesn't it, as you get on with your sort of important work of dealing with all these scammers and awful people. So moving on, we've got now a business slot, which is looking at what you think about the general environment, about government, about what they're saying to people, but also we've got a slide coming up, which is looking at fraudsters in your living room. So I guess that would be interesting to have a look at what people are experiencing working from home. And I see I did a quick Google for research purposes before I spoke to you. There's text messages coming saying, government.uk, you've been spotted outside, you have to pay a fine, click the link, and stuff like that. So talk us through this slide, fraudsters in your living room, and how you're feeling about what's going on in the general melee with this whole situation with COVID.
Yeah, so fraud has increased, so there is more of it about, but of course it's changed in its dynamic. So it's less easy to do kind of physical fraud at the moment. So mugging people or burgling homes is difficult because we're all at home. So fraudsters look for other ways, and phishing to get into your accounts is the classic thing. So send you a message that looks as if it's real. So that might be an email, but it might be, like you say, a text message. And right at the start of COVID-19 kicking off, there were lots of messages that were health related. So, a cure's been found, a vaccine's been found. We've got a supply of masks.
And then people buying them because they think they want to get ahead of the game and get cured and be protected, which is sort of normal, isn't it? And kind of common sense. Yeah. But I think, unfortunately, what I think is if you've got money, almost you're the easiest victim, aren't you? To be the one going, oh, well, look, it's only like a few £100 or, click the link and get it. And I have heard some quite grim stories of people who are affluent going down journeys of this kind of type, which have not led them on a good path.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just that you've got to be super careful, especially at this time. Really, Boris's message of be alert. When it comes to fraud, absolutely, you do have to be alert. And it might seem like a small amount of money to start with, so that you've been fined, click here to pay the fine. That might not be that much money, but then they've got information about you. You've clicked on it, you've confirmed that your phone number or your email is valid, and then they're going to come back for more.
It's a chain.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a site that describes whether you have had your password and login details taken in the past, called haveibeenpawned.com. And you can look up on that.
Have I been what?
Pawned, PWNED. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And you can look up and see whether your email and password has been taken before. And if it has, then you are at particular risk. And one of the worst, you talked about some of the people who've gone down this path. One of the worst things is the banking fraud. So sometimes called authorized push payment, sometimes called CEO fraud. But basically, the fraudsters are getting into your email chain, and then they pick up messages from one side and then change them and relay them to the other side. So say you were buying a big item like a luxury yacht or something like that, and you're doing this by email. Yes.
I'll click and pay.
Yes, absolutely. I would like that yacht.
Amazon click and pay.
Yeah.
Oopsie, somebody else got the pay. Yeah.
So and all they're doing is they're getting into that transaction and inserting their own bank account details. And because many of the banking systems don't check on the name, they only check on the account number and the sort code, that money then goes off to the fraudster's account. And then, of course, it gets dissipated very, very quickly. And unless you act very quickly indeed with your bank and law enforcement, then it's very difficult to stop that. And then it's quite difficult to get that money back. So that's one of the biggest frauds. It generates more money than the ransomware example I gave earlier. So worldwide, this is the biggest generator of fraudulent cash.
I don't want to say who it is, but we do know of one offshore jurisdiction who were sent some just bill to pay or something, and they did just pay like 350 grand or something because it's a normal amount, and it was for some structural development in the country, and it was just a fraud email going overdue payment, click pay, and accounts just didn't look that carefully, I guess, but it was a government payment, which clearly, as you say, like getting that back, good luck. Like, how are you going to find them? No idea.
Yeah.
So let's move on to actual ultra high net worth clients. And one of the things that seems to me in Marylebone is some extremely expensive properties have been left abandoned as people have gone to the country. And I noticed on your LinkedIn, so people can join Peter on LinkedIn, Peter Yap. But I was like, well, actually, extremely expensive properties with a lot of probably lovely stuff in it have been abandoned for 6-7 weeks now. So I saw you'd written something about that. So maybe talk us through what you're telling your clients.
Yeah, so definitely a problem. You know, we're all at home, so our homes are pretty safe, and I don't think many burglars would attempt to get in at this time. But all these commercial properties are empty, and lots of them have just been left. And you know, there's some basics to do, and these are quite important. And I think with the slight relaxation of the guidance particularly in the UK, but elsewhere in the world as well, just checking up that your CCTV or alarm systems are still working is really important. You know, that's your kind of first line of defense. You need to make sure that they are still going. There's nothing wrong with them.
Although I'm going to give you something to chew on. So I'm near a big building in Baker Street, and they now have an alarm. It's a voice alarm, which is now spreading messages across all of the local neighbourhoods saying, "Alert, alert! Something is wrong with the building." going off for hours on end, actually so loud that it's actually broadcasting as though it's someone with a loudhailer in the neighborhood, which kind of says to me that there isn't anyone in the building who is actually looking at that alarm, and the alarm's just being left and left, and it's going off day after day, making it much more like an apocalypse, by the way, for the local neighborhood, which is like going, alert, alert, something has been gone wrong in a bit. And I was like, wow. So in that way, it's almost signaling to people, come and ransack us, isn't it? You're like,
Yeah.
wow, crazy. So I guess your message really is just make sure you're checking in on what you've got.
Absolutely. And you know, security guards, you can employ, if you didn't employ them before, then you know, now's probably a good time to at least have a short-term contract to look after those buildings or check up on those alarms. You know, you might not want to be traveling into London to do that, but I'll bet there's some local guard companies who could do that for you and who are doing that at the moment. So they've carried on working. You know, we've gone out with some of those companies, socially distanced and you know, in a perfectly safe manner, but they are continuing to work. So if you didn't have a guarding company, you should perhaps think about getting one, or at least check up on the ones that you had on contract and make sure that they're still working okay.
So we're talking, or our audience is a lot of also corporate. So it'd be interesting to get your take on data theft at this time. Is it more at risk? And we're considering the industry's had a couple of big sharp blows with Paradise Papers and all sorts of stuff, which is still ongoing. That has caused the industry, as we were discussing earlier, to have a review of its business. But are things like that more at risk now, or is it just the normal procedures and processes? Because a lot of people, staff have worked from home. So is there anything people should be doing there that you could advise them on?
Yeah, I think there are a few things about working at home that mean our guards down a bit. So, you know, when we get dressed up and we go into the office and, you know, we're in a physical building, we know the stuff that we deal with is often sensitive, and we take care, and we have processes and procedures in place, and we can turn to our colleagues and say, what do you think of this? This looks a bit odd. You just can't do that at home. You've got none of that kind of the checks and balances. And then you combine with that with people are using their own systems, their own routers, their own computers, not all the time, but you know, a lot of the time. And there's a blurring, I think, between your work life and your home life. So, you know, I think you were saying that you know, you're extending your day later, and you know, where's the line now? So all of those things, yeah, all of those things play into it. So I think our guard's down, and I think that the systems and some of the processes are not as robust as we would have in the office. So, you know, there's some simple things like, you know, making sure that your passwords are really secure. They're not some of the classic password 123, which so many people use. It just
Reggie 123.
Yes. You're welcome to try that one on me, but I haven't fallen for that. So you know, one of the simple messages is think of 3 random words that you put together to make a password. So don't try and come up with something really complex with lots of letters, numbers, characters, uppercase, lowercase, all of that you're never going to remember. Just think of 3 completely random words and put them together. You get a really long, strong password, and you probably can remember it because it's odd. You know, it's an odd combination of 3 words that you wouldn't normally put together.
And that's the reality, isn't it? You've got to be able to remember it, or otherwise you just go back to Reggie 123 because you're like, oh, gee, I locked myself out again. Like, it's doing my head in, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So whilst we're still on, let's just keep chatting a bit longer on this. But like, So what problems are coming to Schillings or landing on your desk, which often can be quite unusual, can't they? I mean, in the past, it's been kidnapping and all that kind of stuff. But I guess in this new world order, there might be different problems. So what, for the market that we serve, wealth management, what other problems are you seeing that have been kind of like, wow, have a look at this and how do we proceed?
Yeah, so I think they're all kind of tied in to some of the subjects that we've talked about. So it's things that are being leaked.
Like what?
So just business material that's ending up on social media because someone's got hold of it and they're publishing it. It might just be malicious. They might be trying to damage the company, or they might be trying to extract money. They can say, I've found this, but I'm going to publish much more if you don't pay this ransom or whatever. And sometimes it's as simple as the controls on the data just not good enough.
What does that mean?
So
what's a control on a data?
So after a leak, people will often say, well, how did that get out? Where did that come from? And there'll be lots of thoughts about whether it was an insider, whether it was malicious or whatever. So, but one of the first things that we check is whether you can see that data from that company from the internet. So with no special access at all, we can, and legally, we can just scan and see whether there is a door open effectively. And often there is. Often it's because that data hasn't been secured by the company in the first place, that someone's just come across it. They may not even have targeted that company. They may just have been wandering around the internet and they've come across this treasure trove of data and they've gone, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to use that. So that kind of...
So what kind of data would that be? I mean, just to give people a bit of a wake-up call.
So, so it can be business plans. Often it's intellectual property. So it's something being developed. There's huge interest.
So somebody is shared somehow on some kind of, well, as everyone is doing probably now, aren't they? But then somebody else looks at it and goes, oh, that would be interesting to X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's particular interest in vaccines at the moment. So all the pharmaceutical companies, government bodies, anyone who's doing anything to do with vaccines, then people are looking for that. They're looking to see whether they could get a march on a competitor or a competitor country just by getting that data ahead of their own research.
So it could just be as simple as something you're talking about at a conference, couldn't it? But actually, sometimes people put quite detailed stuff in there, don't they? Like even stuff we get for award ceremonies and things is details of like how people do things. So it's just your day-to-day things that you're saying. Perhaps you're not thinking about how you're posting it or using it or sharing it.
Yeah, and just in your infrastructure. In your, the way your IT team protects that core data at the center, are they doing all the things that they should be to lock that down? So
give us 3 things that they should be doing so that people can go, I better have a look.
Yes. So patching, that is basically getting your software up to date. So software's changing all the time, and when people find vulnerabilities in it, they post an update. And this happens in our own personal lives as well. So when you get that on your computer or your phone, if it says, would you like to update to the latest version? My strong recommendation to you all is to say yes. Don't put it off.
Okay, so don't delay. Yeah. Yes, get on with it. Okay, good. That's a very good bit of advice. So another 2 bits. Okay.
So for the most critical accounts, so for your main email accounts, both at work and at home, use 2-factor authentication. So this is
So that's
coming in.
Google Authenticator or something
Absolutely,
like that. Yeah?
absolutely. So you can do this for Amazon, for instance. So if you wanted to make sure that only you are the one who are buying all those things on Amazon, then get that one-time password to be sent to another device, your phone or whatever, and use it in that way. Do that with your email account. Do that with all the critical accounts. So sometimes,
and that's just saving hacking, because there's no way someone will have the phone as well as, unless they've broken into your house, probably they won't have both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can do that personally, and you can do that corporately as well. And for anything that is really sensitive, that's important. And the third thing I would say, I would just go back to the password one. That is so fundamental. Choose 3 random words for your password and make it much stronger, both in the corporate environment and home environment.
So we'll move on quickly to location, but before we do, can you what if people come to Schillings or they come to Peter Yapp, what are you selling them? What is the service that is it a review, or is it specific actions? Because I know Schillings has a reputation for crisis management if someone appears in the newspapers. So is it like a piggybacking on that, or is it what is your main remit?
Yeah, so it's about privacy, reputation, and security. So particularly if they come to me, there's the proactive and the reactive. Most people come to me with a reactive problem. So they've been hacked, they've lost data, data is being publicized somewhere that they don't want it to be, or it's untrue, it's fake news. And they want to get to the source of that. So the crisis piece is working out how it happened, who's doing it, how to stop it, how to get it removed. The proactive side is about training, it's about audit, it's about checking that these things are not going to happen to you. Far better, far more cost-effective way of dealing with things. But if I could review your central data system, so where your crown jewels are held, and make sure that that random person who's just scooting around the internet looking for gems doesn't come across something that's open in your environment. You can do that proactively. You can do that beforehand.
And that's like what do they do? Like a subscription service, or is it a service? How does that work?
So that would be, it'd probably be a specific task. So it would be, we'd like to review the security of our systems in these offices or worldwide. And then, it would effectively be an audit with permissions,
like a report on recommendations and things like that. Yeah, okay,
yeah,
great.
absolutely.
So where are you? You're obviously, we know Schillings is central London, but where are you now? Maybe tell us a little bit about your location.
Yes, so I'm out on the edge of the countryside near Bicester, famous for its shopping village.
Oh, I know, yeah. I've been there,
not very active at the moment, I'm afraid.
No.
But yes, so one of the joys is that I don't have to walk very far with Reggie to get to the countryside and to get to beautiful fields like you saw in the earlier photograph.
Yeah, that's so spectacular, that buttercup field. Yeah, beautiful.
Yes, and just kind of escape from it all. So escape from hackers and securing data, and just get some clean, fresh air and beautiful fields and views, and that kind of it is a nice balance. So
do you have a strange view on the world? A million years ago, I used to live in the Grosvenor, behind the American Embassy, Grosvenor Square, and I used to speak to the police there every day, who are diplomatic police, and they had a very skewed view of the world, which is like, Karen, don't go out. There's people there doing this, this, and this, and in our knowledge, go the other way. Like, and I'd be like, oh yeah, but they're only chucking shoes, or much more lazy attitude about it. But I mean, do you because you're sometimes immersed in this dark world, do you have like a darker attitude towards people in life?
I suppose I am more cynical. So you know, having investigated fraudsters from an early part of my career and for many years, I probably saw too many people who were breaking the system and trying to defraud the system, and I think that has made me a little bit cynical. But you know, hopefully, I've channeled that into being more cautious, you know, being more alert to these things, and giving something back in terms of, you know, telling other people how these things happen, how they go on, what they should do to stop them. So I think that that's the balance, is that, you know, a lot of my messages are, this is how you can stop this happening to you. So
what's the top scam at the moment that you're just like, OMG, not again?
So you know, you mentioned the 419 fraud, and that was about Nigerian gangs trying to get money out of people. They used to send them letters and faxes, but all of that's done on email now, and you know, that's still a roaring business, because it works, because people fall for it, because they're asked to click on something and they still click on it. And you know, I don't think we'll ever be able to stop that. I don't think any amount of training will get everyone.
So I think in my head that one is one where they say, oh, there's amazing investment or something like that. Is it the 419 one?
Yes, I mean,
and then just click and participate and you can get £2 million sent to you or something of that ilk.
Yeah, so if it looks too good to be true, it is. And if they yeah, absolutely. And if they've added an element of urgency to it, then be doubly cautious, because if someone's asking you to do something very quickly, that is a key indicator that it's not right.
Okay, that's good advice, thank you. And so let's just move on to post-COVID. Do you see the scams are the same, or what's your thoughts post-COVID about how we get back to normal? And are all the new scams the new normal, or will new ones develop, or what's your view?
So I think the theme will change. You know, fraudsters have jumped on the bandwagon of COVID-19 and they've used it in every which way to commit these frauds. And once we move out of it, then there'll be something else. There'll be another hook that people try and use. You know, it might be around fake news. It might be a forward look. It might be, you know, what's the future? How are we going to recover from this and make lots of money? So, you know, people will be in desperate states, a lot of them, and they'll probably want to recover quickly their financial position.
So business ideas that are like quick money. Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah. So look out for anything that comes across your desk going, you can make 20,000 in 3 days. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Wow. So what else post-COVID? Just give us your thought on the recovery. And
so I think we should be thinking now about how we're going to get back to work, how we're going to build resilience into all the things, all the class actions, perhaps all the litigation, the investigations that will come out of this. You know, there are bound to be disputes. There'll be disputes both ways. I think we've seen in America businesses that are desperate to get back to work, thinking about suing people, you know, states or whatever that are stopping them going back to work. And on the other side,
whole scale litigation everywhere, you think?
Yeah, and on the other side, you've got companies that are being super sensitive for their staff and you know, absolutely enforcing social distancing and mask wearing and whatever, and people saying that they're going to sue them for going too far. So I think you're going to get both ends of this spectrum. You know, you've been overprotective or you've been underprotective. And I think there's going to be a lot of that kind of work coming through.
A difficult world that we're entering into, which leads me on to the fact that Citiwealth is just about to publish a top 100 trust litigators list, which I imagine is going to be extremely topical with that kind of ending. But you were going to say something.
No, I'm just saying that I think firms should just take ownership of that long-term narrative for their businesses. So it was a bit of a shock when this came in, and lots of people weren't ready for lockdown. We've had a bit of time to think now how businesses are going to come out of this, and what kind of narrative they're going to give to their staff and to their clients and customers. And taking ownership of that, I think, will be important to position yourself correctly for coming out of this.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's definitely, although maybe it's not labelled under crisis management with reputation, I mean, it's all in that ballpark, isn't it? Well, we've all seen businesses behave in very different ways towards their staff, which will, I'm sure, have long-term repercussions for a lot of industries, unfortunately. But thank you so much, Peter. It's been an absolute pleasure. We just want to say to viewers, if you enjoyed watching this, please press the thumbs up so that we can get some more viewers, and subscribe to the channel. And on Friday, just to let you know, we will be talking to Lansons, who are a PR company, and they will be advising us on the big issues of today and how they're dealing with that with clients as well. So thank you very much, Peter. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you through YouTube, and I look forward to meeting you for a glass of wine or mint tea after this has all happened and finished with lockdown. So thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.